How about silver? Something near and dear to all of us. Before you answer that question, I'll say something unusually unique is happening in silver, and that is the amount of deliveries we're seeing in COMEX. And like for the first 5 days of the August contract, we saw somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 or $7 billion worth of silver post for delivery, and much of it leaving COMEX. Now you're talking semi-trailers full. Something big is happening with silver and gold, and you can see it by the import numbers into the United States. I don't care what people say, it's tariffs, it's arbitrage. I say nonsense. Things are moving at a speed and in a direction that used to only be associated with the other countries, the Chinese, the Indians, the Russians. Now it's happening here. What goes through your mind now when you hear the word silver?
Well, a lot of people say, and I think they're correct, that we've talking about the pyramid, right? And gold is at the bottom. But underneath the gold is an even smaller triangle of silver in terms of value. Look, before gold was money, we talk about gold standard and going back to gold standard, and this is what we have to do. But really, it's not exactly that. It's really going back to silver is what we need to do, or what will be done. I understand that, trading silver coins is not economical in the sense that it's very bulky, and you can't actually exactly do that in today's world. But the human civilization started not on gold, but when we really started global trade and continents started trading in the Silk Road, and Africa started trading with Asia, and you really got a big economic system going, it was based on silver. And what happened in 1873, right, with the crime against silver, or what exactly they call it? I think it was the crime against silver. What happened was, who owned silver back then? It was the poor and the middle class. That's what they used for their money. What did rich people do? How did they store their wealth? They stored it in gold because they had too much silver. They couldn't store it all. Right? And so they had a lot of gold. So what's the best way, if the middle class and the poor, and there's a lot more middle class and poor than there are rich, what's the best way to take purchasing power from the middle class and the poor and give it to the rich? If you're on a silver standard, move to a gold standard, right? That's how you do it. But like everything that the government does in order to keep the pyramid going is basically a theft of the middle class and the poor, for the favor of the rich. So at the end of this, it's going to be a silver standard, not necessarily a gold standard. Going back to gold would be better where we are now, but the real end of the inflationary system is when credit is going to collapse. When credit collapses, dollars don't work, and if dollars don't work, none of the other currencies work either, because that's what we say reserve currency, right? That's currency that's in the basement of all these other central banks. So when the dollar falls, or these other currency falls, all credit falls, all credit derivatives, and then you're left with all the purchasing power of all that lost purchasing power gets vacuumed into silver, even more than gold, which is why we're going to go eventually to very near a 15-to-1 ratio, which is the historic exchange ratio, monetary exchange ratio between gold and silver. That's natural economic law. It's not that prices are rising. They only seem to rise within the inflationary system, within this illusory system that we're all stuck in, like a prisoner's dilemma, and we're all stuck in it. Prices are they've been going down since 1960s. I mean, if you look at everything priced in money,
And gold.
I mean gold and silver, mostly gold, silver secondarily. But if you look at actual prices, they're going down. And so the prices are only going up if you insist on maintaining your economic existence within the illusion itself. And you could say, okay, fine. So let's say I want to get out of the illusion and just, take all of my salary and just buy gold with it every month. Well, I understand you can't do that because you need to be liquid, and gold is not as liquid as dollars. It would be if we were on a gold standard, but it's not. So then you could say, so then, we are losing out. But it's not just that prices have been staying stable in gold. They've been falling in almost every category. And anything priced in gold is going down. So even if your dollar salary is less, right, then the amount of gold would keep going down with however much you could put away every month. Let's say you earn like $5,000 a month, and you put, $1,000 a month away, or $500 a month away in gold and silver. over 20 years, and each month it's less and less gold and silver because they keep going up, but you need less and less gold and silver to even have higher standards of living. So you can live outside of this illusion. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. It's not about stacking and then becoming rich and then using gold and silver to accumulate dollars. We're getting out of the illusion as much as we can. It's like like a drug addict, right? If you're talking to a drug addict, you have to understand how they think, but you can't go completely into their world. But you care for them, so you need to communicate with them in a way that they think that you're on their planet. But you have to. It's a very difficult position where we are, because we have to put a leg in the illusion and we have to keep a leg out of it and keep our minds together, which is it's very difficult even for people like us. It's all the more difficult for people who don't understand intuitively with the confidence that gold is actually money, and it still is today. That was the final piece that fell into place for me. That only I think in 2022 or something like that, when I finally understood, when it finally slipped into place that everything is really based on gold and silver in this entire pyramid that we're living on. The higher we get on it, the thinner the air gets, and the more insane we become keeping one leg in it while trying to keep one leg out. But we're keeping it together. We have to go through a reckoning. That's natural law. Like, just as all debts are paid either by paying the debt or defaulting, all theft is paid too. Because when you steal, that value, when you make an exchange of two people and they're both benefiting, legitimate, when you steal, one loses at the expense of the other, and so you have a net negative effect on society. So when you have a society that operates through these sorts of theft systems, those thefts and those debts are going to be paid one way or another. Now, I have no dollar figure for where silver is going to go in the end game, but I do believe strongly that the end game bell. How do we know when this is all over? The bell's ringing. Okay, well, the dollar has collapsed. It's going to be at a 15-to-1 gold to silver ratio, one that's relatively stable. I'm not saying like we hit it one day, like in 1980 it happened for a day and a half or something. I'm saying this time it's going to stay that way until we can rebuild a basic economic system again. So it could be a year or two, 3. I don't know, but I'm saying it's going to be stable enough that silver supplies can filter through the economic system, physical silver supplies, and that figuratively and almost literally creates a base of wider silver dispersal where you can rebuild another credit pyramid, hopefully an honest one where all debts are paid and you don't have fractional reserve or however you think the banking system functions. Well, what does the United States look like? I really don't know, which is why, frankly, I don't want to live here. I don't know what Israel's going to look like either. I'd rather be with my people than being here, precisely because I don't know. I would imagine that states could break off from the federal government. The federal government could dissipate, and you could have regions, different regions. Like, if the South had won the Civil War, you'd have the Confederate States and the Northern United States. So, might break into a few pieces. I think there's going to be serious trouble in the very big cities like in LA, New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, where you're from. These places that are morally rotting, they're not going to do very well. But I think outside of that, you will have Americans, and America will exist. The United States as it exists now, I don't know. I can't say yes. I can't say no. It might reorganize into some looser government or Articles of Confederation or something, or California, New York could cede and then leave the more fiscally responsible states into some other union. It could be anything. I just hope that we get through it with the minimal amount of suffering.
Well,
it's not the worst idea I've heard, but what I would say is that look, if we go back again to the Great Depression, what did the academics who were trying to solve this issue, what do they think was the problem? That prices aren't high enough. So if we can get the price level back to where it was in 1929 before the crash, then the crash will end. But really, the price level is just an effect of a much deeper problem down below. Why did prices fall? Because the inflation of the money supply was too high, and then it stopped, and then all these other industries that had overinvested in themselves, they collapsed.
Doesn't that sound like where we are right now, though?
Yeah, it is, and so Trump is trying to say, like, well, we've lost manufacturing, so if we can just get manufacturing back, then we'll be back where we were in the 40s and 50s when we were, a powerhouse. But that's the same. It's the same pseudo logic as saying, well, in the 1930s, well, if we could just get the price level back to where it was in the 1929 before the crash, everything will be fine. I don't think bringing manufacturing back should be a goal in itself. I think that manufacturing returning to the United States is a symbol that it's an outgrowth of the monetary system becoming honest once again. What does inflation do? It centralizes things to the cheapest countries where workers have a lot fewer legislatively induced rights. There's child labor, and so things are going to go there where it's cheaper. That's just what's going to happen. So I'm not against your plan, but what I would say is that, and I'll add another Torah-based story to this. That if we focus on just making money honest again, then all these things will happen. Manufacturing will return, and instead of having to legislate a universal basic income, we'll have the gold and silver supplies spreading out through an honest derivative system, and then people will become richer, slowly but surely. I mean, we're not going to stop the crash. We're not going to stop people from falling, but what we can do is get out of the way, and then let the market function as it would function. So the story I can tell you, and I released this in a video recently to my Patreon subscribers, is that I came across a verse that said that the menorah, the golden menorah, this big block of gold, right? And God tells Moses how to make the menorah. So the verse says that the menorah was made. It doesn't say that Moses made the menorah. So the rabbis pick up on this statement. They're like, what do you mean the menorah was made? Didn't Moses make it? And then they say, no, actually he didn't. He didn't know how. He was trying to, and he kept failing. And so Moses says to God, like, I'm just going to put this block of gold in the fire, and you, God, you can make it into a menorah however you want, because I can't do this. It's too hard for me. So, I mean, what does that tell me? It tells me that if we just return to honest money, return to honest gold, honest silver, there's going to be consequences. People are going to fall, but it's going to be up to stackers and other people that have real assets and gold to help rebuild and find the talent, find people who can do things with our money and become the capitalists of the world. And then these problems will work themselves out. I don't think it's up to us to discover a grand system or a grand solution to all this, where and put this variable here and that variable there. And if we just like make this this trampoline or this what do you call it, that the stunt people they fall on when they're falling from the sky, like a big big pillow.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, whatever it is, it might be a good idea, but I don't have the expertise to tell you that. I just know that we have to go back to honesty.
Gold and silver have once again captured the spotlight as America teeters on the edge of unprecedented financial and political instability. With Donald Trump's recent surge in polling numbers despite multiple legal challenges, and the U.S. economy walking a tightrope of inflation, rate uncertainty, and record-breaking debt levels, it has become abundantly clear that the fiat system, rooted in endless money printing and blind trust, is broken. Gold and silver are not just alternative investments anymore. They are lifeboats in a storm of economic and institutional collapse. Every fiat currency in history has eventually failed. The US dollar, once backed by gold, now floats on the whims of policymakers and central bankers. The Federal Reserve claims to fight inflation, yet it created the very problem with years of near-zero interest rates and trillions in stimulus. And now, with CPI inflation numbers still sticky and consumer sentiment in freefall, they've cornered themselves into a lose-lose situation. Raise rates and tank the economy, or ease and ignite another inflation wave. Either way, fiat suffers, but physical gold and silver, finite, real, and time-tested, thrive. In the last few weeks, silver has quietly outperformed many other assets, pushing past key resistance levels while being largely ignored by the mainstream media. Gold, too, is testing all-time highs amid global central bank accumulation. Why are nations like China, Russia, and even Poland buying tons of gold while telling their citizens to hold cash? Because they know what's coming. They know the dollar is losing its dominance and that the next financial system won't be built on paper IOUs. It will be anchored to something real. Trump's return to the headlines isn't just about politics. It's about economic sentiment. His recent statements slamming the Federal Reserve and calling for a return to sound money are echoing louder than ever. Trump understands that Americans are losing faith in the institutions that manage their money. Confidence in the Fed is near all-time lows. The Treasury is issuing debt at a breakneck pace. Social Security is on track to go bankrupt. Meanwhile, the stock market continues to float on speculation, artificially supported by Fed jawboning and tech hype. But beneath the surface, cracks are forming. Young investors are waking up. They're beginning to see the trap. Save in dollars, and you're guaranteed to lose purchasing power. Trust in stocks and crypto, and you're subject to manipulation and regulatory whims. The only assets with a 5,000-year track record of preserving wealth through every war, recession, and regime change are gold and silver. And right now, silver is arguably the most undervalued strategic asset on Earth. Not only is it a monetary metal, but it's also essential in solar panels, electric vehicles, and industrial applications. The supply is shrinking while demand is surging. This is not a speculative narrative. It's a supply chain reality. Meanwhile, America is sleepwalking into another debt crisis. With over $34 trillion in national debt and interest payments now rivaling military spending, the writing is on the wall. The government has no plan to pay it off. The only tool they have left is inflation. Silent theft through currency debasement. If you're holding dollars, you're the victim. Every printed dollar makes your savings weaker. Every stimulus check, every bailout, every new government program funded by the printing press, it's a transfer of your wealth to the state. Look at the banks. Regional banking stress has returned, and big names are warning of a new wave of collapses. If even one major institution falls, a domino effect could ensue. And with FDIC reserves under pressure and trust in banks declining, people are beginning to ask serious questions. What happens to my savings if the system locks up? If you can't hold it, you don't own it, and that's why physical metals are making a comeback. Gold and silver require no counterparty. They cannot be hacked, frozen, or inflated away. They don't rely on government promises or Wall Street gymnastics. In times of war, regime change, or collapse, like the world is inching toward now, they are the final fallback. Just this week, Trump warned that America is closer than ever to losing the dollar as the world reserve currency. That's not alarmism, it's fact. The BRICS nations are actively developing a gold-backed trading currency, and the world is watching. The petrodollar era is ending, and with it, the dollar's dominance. Gold and silver will outlive fiat. They have outlived every empire that thought it could print its way to prosperity, and they will outlive this one too. While Wall Street distracts you with AI stocks and debt-fueled bubbles, the smart money is quietly accumulating hard assets. If the monetary system resets, and history shows it always does, those holding metals will have purchasing power while everyone else scrambles for crumbs.